Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're nearing the end of the closing, but before we go to the closing, we would now like to invite Mr. Leslie Chu, Director of Operations of the ASEAN Specialized Meteorological Center, to share with us the key takeaways from the first part of the forum, which was led by the ASMC, and which addressed how we can better support adaptation planning to cope with climate change impacts in Southeast Asia. Mr. Chu, please.
Hi, a very good afternoon to everyone. I know it's pretty difficult to try to summarize the discussions of the last 3 days in just 2 slides. So what we have done is just to put a few points from each of the few areas together and identify a few cross-cutting themes that we observed. So following the context setting discussions that we had on the first day, we delve a bit more into 3 areas where climate services have been applied. So the first is food and water security, and it was recognized that climate services are essential for building resilience and sustainability. And it can also help us identify climate hotspots and help farmers in decision making and drive research. Some challenges that we identified included generational mindsets that we had to change over time, data unavailability, lack of harmonization, standards, and so forth between agencies. And some collaborations included opportunities to include larger farming groups, assisting the smaller groups, leveraging technology and fostering research and some of the citizen science. Second area was in human health. So we looked at the key issues relating to health, including things such as heat injuries, infectious diseases, all the way through to mental health issues. And the challenges that were identified included response, risk communication, data access, aligning terminology. Different people have different heat wave definitions. Different people use different metrics. Some are climatic, some are physiological in nature, and so forth. And also we found that climate services can support science, evidence-based policies, and in some cases, real-time monitoring can also help address this risk. And the point of collaboration was very clearly noted between the climate service providers as well as the health agencies. And finally, the last point there came across quite a bit, the need to tailor solutions for different demographic groups. And the third area was in urban development, and the presentations actually explored some of the climate services in urban planning and infrastructure development, and there were a number of different case studies being shared at that time. So the discussions identified gaps in mitigation adaptation, issues of communication, and different perspectives between national and local priorities. So some of the initiatives that we identified included early engagement with the community, maybe optimizing the use of climate projections, and research for community engagement. And again, we see that point here of the importance of collaboration between the climate service providers and the practitioners. Yeah, this is my second and my last slide, don't worry about it. Yeah, so the few key takeaways that we identified were summarized as follows. So there was a need for tailored approaches. Climate services have to be tailored to the specific sector for which they were targeted. And the second point was that regardless of the information or the data or the metrics that we use, there was a need to translate all these complex concepts into ways and methods that the target stakeholders were able to act on for their decision making. Collaboration came across quite a bit. I think it was mentioned earlier as well. Met services don't operate in isolation. There's a need for collaboration with stakeholders, government agencies, researchers, communities, and so on to build climate resilience. There's a need for long-term capacity building so that we can ensure that our success is sustained. And the last area identified there was in innovation. And that came out quite a bit in the various discussions, whether we're talking about HPCs, AI, ML approaches, and so forth. All of that can lead to improved climate services and help address emerging challenges. So roughly this is what we were able to take down from our discussions. One thing that came across was the extent and the wealth of the information, insights, and ideas that were so freely shared by everybody. So what we'll do after this forum is try to take back some of these points to see how we can make use of them to perhaps implement some of these very good ideas that you have suggested. So I'll hand over to Ben, but just before that, I'd just like to express my appreciation to all participants here for all the active participation, all the brilliant ideas that were shared over the course of the 3 days. Ben, over to you, please.
We would now like to invite Mr. Ben Churchill, Director of the WMO Regional Office for Asia and the Southwest Pacific, to share with us the key takeaways from the second part of the forum, which includes the deep dive into the state of the climate reports for Asia and the Southwest Pacific, and also covered how early warning systems can be leveraged as an adaptive measure in Southeast Asia. Mr. Churchill, please.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Leslie, for the nice summary. I'm going to start with a thank you, and I have a long list. It's like winning an award or something, but I want to thank, first and foremost, the ASEAN Specialised Meteorological Centre, the Meteorological Service Singapore, and also Singapore Government for co-designing and hosting this important event in partnership with the WMO. And I want to also thank the event managers and all the technical staff for ensuring everything ran smoothly over the last 3 days. So if we could just give a quick round of applause for the support. And just to think that this regional forum started with an idea early this year, it actually started with a discussion amongst staff about what we need to do and how to do this. And in that context, I actually want to acknowledge here the former director of the Meteorological Service Singapore, Ms. Wong Ching Ling, and also the current director, Colina, for the hard work and collaborative approach and offering their team to support the staff at the RAP office to design and develop this. But also the WMO Executive Management, led by Secretary General Professor Celeste Salo, who had no hesitation to endorse the concept from the outset and also contribute human and financial resources to make it happen. Thank you also to my colleagues from the WMO Secretariat, Chris Hewitt from Climate Services Branch, John Harding from the Cruise Secretariat, and last but most certainly not least, Professor Salo herself for travelling halfway around the world, literally, to attend and contribute to the success of this forum. Thank you also to our regional partners, UNDRR, FAO, WFP, IFRC, RIMES, ADB, the list goes on, many, many more for attending and supporting not just here, but also in many important regional initiatives and activities. Thank you to the WMO members, the permanent representatives and the directors of NMHSs and the expert technical staff that are here with us for taking time out of your busy schedules, and many currently dealing with extreme events in recent days and weeks. I'll take the opportunity also to appreciate my team at the WMO RAP office for placing such high importance on this event and ensuring it was attended by our WMO members, and also for supporting behind the scenes. So as per my brief, allow me to share some highlights and some takeaways from my perspective, building on Leslie's summary but focusing on the climate reports, regional state of climate reports, and the early warnings for all initiative. But just on climate services, to add a little bit to what Leslie said, I think we need to recognise, appreciate and support the ASMC and other regional climate centres to continue developing tailored services. I think Leslie captured that really nicely, to address the climate sensitive sectors and respond to user needs, but also need to help the end users to make sense, to make the best use of this information to support their decision making processes. With the Early Warnings for All initiative, we've heard in the discussion in the workshop that WMO and partners are ready to move beyond the focus countries to scale up this initiative as a climate adaptation measure to save lives and livelihoods and build resilience against extreme climate weather and water hazards. We know that early warnings work, but they need to work for everyone. With the regional state of the climate reports, we've seen how effective they can be in terms of collecting climate data in terms of the indicators, but also understanding the impacts and the risks and the policy implications. Even more importantly than having the reports themselves, we need to take them further. We need to communicate clearly in very easy to understand terms the findings of these reports to the policymakers and the decision makers, the climate negotiators that are preparing for COP as we speak. And on that note, I really want to commend all of the contributors to these reports for producing these reports and getting them out into the hands of these important decision makers and policymakers well in advance of COP. You may recall 4 years ago we were releasing these reports at COP, which in my opinion was too late, and now we have them months and months in advance, which is fantastic. So in a general sense, we also need to understand and leverage these regional partners and the frameworks and mechanisms, and also the development opportunities to support the implementation of transformative initiatives such as the Early Warnings for All initiative and also the climate reports and climate services, and also capacity development through education, through training and outreach, but also really, really importantly to support the fundamentals of the work that we do, such as the observation systems that provide the critical data to inform the numerical weather prediction models, and also the impact-based forecasting capability. As Professor Sala highlighted in her keynote address on the opening day of the regional forum, this is a springboard for action. So I want to focus now on what I consider the takeaways or the key things that we can actually turn from discussion and sharing ideas into action going forward. There's just a few points, and allow me to run through them. I've already mentioned strengthening observing networks to close the data gap. This is key, and I mention this first because this is the start of the value chain. We need to share information, experience and data to build a true understanding of your capacity needs, of the Met services, but also the supporting agencies such as disaster management agencies. We need to use the global and regional state of climate reports to raise awareness, to inform the policy making and investment, and also to drive stronger climate action at the national, regional and global level. We need you to help us so that we can help you. And even better than that, we need you to help us so we can help you to help each other. We need to do this by sharing your challenges, or we need to understand, we need to listen to your challenges, and we need to co-design the solutions with WMO, with partners. Many of the tools are already available, and we need to help you understand how to access these tools and utilise them. Examples were given this morning, such as satellite applications, numerical weather prediction tools, guidelines, technical support. More and more are coming as well, including some guidelines on how members, WMO members, the Met services, Met and Hydro services can access climate finance, for example, to write their own proposals and really tap into what is already available. Another action is to collaborate with partners that are active in the region, such as WISER, which we heard earlier from David, and also RHYMES, to focus on the common problems and benefit from the regional scale approaches, such as training and capacity development, and also to utilise the WMO regional centres that have been mentioned many times, the regional climate centres, the regional training centres, the instrumentation centres. We need to strengthen these regional centres, but we also need to help you to access them so you can benefit. We need to understand and promote the value of your service to government, industry, the community. We need to build a case for investing more in infrastructure and in the people. We also need to leverage the strength of the WMO community by participating in the technical commissions and the research board, actively engaging in regional level expert teams and working groups to shape the future policy, the guidelines that will support your needs. And for those with advanced capabilities in the region, we need to find ways that you can help your neighbours through peer support. So let's collaborate also on research. This is a key theme that came through, particularly in the discussions we had with the permanent representatives and directors of National Met and Hydro Services. Let's look at finding solutions for the conditions that affect us, that are unique to this region, such as the tropical conditions, such as using artificial intelligence, combining that with satellite data to improve the forecasts, and also some applied research to understand if there can be benefits from sharing data from radars across the region. Finally, become part of the Early Warnings for All initiative. It's a proven effective adaptation measure that's been made very clear over the last few days. We understand that we are all at different levels of capacity and we must work together, otherwise we will not succeed. For those that have already joined the initiative, such as Cambodia and Laos in this region, please share your experience with neighbouring countries so they can learn from you and accelerate their processes. Finally, let's explore the possibility of scaling up Early Warnings for All through existing regional frameworks. We are now contemplating using the ASEAN framework and its processes to share resources and take a regional approach. This is our chance to deliver concrete action and critical services that will give hope to and better protect our communities and secure hard-fought sustainable development gains in the context of a changing climate. So in closing, I would like to thank you all again for joining the forum in Singapore this week, and we also had some online participants. I want to acknowledge them as well. For me, as the Director of the WMO Regional Office for Asia and Southwest Pacific, it has been extremely valuable to meet with you and for you to meet with each other, to share experiences and ideas for a better future, where we collaborate on common challenges and co-design regional and national solutions. I truly hope the same goes for all of you in terms of the value of this workshop, and also that you leave with new connections, information, and I would like to believe some new inspiration and even greater ambition. So I wish you all a safe trip home, and I look forward to seeing all of you very, very soon. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Churchill. As we come to the close of the ASMC WMO Regional Forum, we reflect on the insightful discussions, knowledge sharing, and collaborative efforts that have taken place over the past few days. This forum has highlighted the importance of regional collaboration for preparing a weather-ready and climate-resilient ASEAN. We would now like to invite our guest of honor, Professor Celeste Saulo, to share with us some closing remarks. Thank you very much.
Okay, good day to everyone. Well, first of all, I will echo the words by Ben Churchill in terms of my gratitude to all of you. But let me address you not only as the EU, as the WMO as Secretary General, but also as a mother, as a grandmother, that as you, we are living in a world that is under an existential crisis. Climate change brings all of us into an existential crisis. And we have shared experiences in the last days where we can all recognize that there is a narrative where we all understand the importance of working together. But then, there is a reality, back home or back to our offices, when we are struggling with our everyday issues, and we are also constrained by our governance systems that sometimes do not allow us to do what we want to do. But if we really want a people-centered approach, we are urged to coordinate and collaborate to overcome all the barriers. At the end of the day, natural hazards are happening everywhere. They affect people, they kill people, livelihoods, economies, and infrastructure. With regional structures like the ASEAN community, we can prove that we can be better. I want to thank all of the organizers, the government of Singapore, for hosting this ASMC WMO Regional Forum. Of course, I would also like to thank the participants for sharing knowledge and experiences. Let's build from what we have been discussing these days. Let's not forget that together we are stronger and more effective. Our people are expecting concrete answers and actions. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General. We would now like to invite Ms. Ko Lina, Director of the ASMC and Director General of the Meteorological Service Singapore, to officially close the ASMC WMO Forum.
Thank you very much. You're going to hear the same three messages on repeat to emphasize the importance of the work that we do today and also to express thanks. Right? We have heard these past 3 days, or we've been reminded that this year, right, was the 20th year of the anniversary of the Indian Ocean tsunami. And actually, for this region, the tsunami was something that we never thought could happen to us. In the past few days, we have also heard of new signs, new challenges that will emerge with extreme weather, multi-hazards. New things that we think will never happen to us are starting to happen, and that is the challenge that we are faced with. How do we respond, and how do we plan for it? The reason why we convene this forum, together with our WMO colleagues and friends, is really for us to come together, right? Look at the information available, the science available, the experiences available in our region, which is very, very rich, the support, the structures, and the frameworks available through the UN system, through the ASEAN system, through partners like our UK Met Office colleagues who are also here with us, right? Put the information, make it available to everybody, and more importantly, how do we then come together, establish cooperation and collaboration to use the information for action. I was very, very happy to see the past few days many photo-taking sessions, right? Informal photo-taking, formal photo-taking. And that really is the reality, right? That we are able to come together, right? To make new friends, to form new networks, to figure out how we're going to work together to respond to this multi-hazard early warnings challenge. And I do hope and look forward to more of such conversations, more of such casual interactions, right, for us to come together, brainstorm, think about what we're going to do and how we're going to respond. And finally, to echo what Celeste and Ben also mentioned, let's not leave the conversation in the room. Right? If we are inspired, and I believe a lot of us have been inspired with the rich content, the rich experiences that have been shared these few days, let's take action. Right? And one of the practical actions, which we discussed this morning, is not to leave the conversation in the room. Right? The problem is not us to solve. We are part of the solution. We are not the full solution. So let's go back, take this information, take this inspiration, and advocate for responses in our national governments, in the region, among our colleagues, bring the message out so that together as the region, we will be a lot more well-placed to respond to the challenge of climate change, the challenge of extreme weather, and indeed implement and bring to life this whole objective of early warnings for all. And to close off, maybe I'll invite everyone to also join me to thank one of our guests of honors, Professor Celeste Saulo, for joining us for 3 full days, right, from Geneva all the way around the world, like Ben mentioned, and spend 3 full days with us, which really shows the commitment that WMO has to understand the region and to see how best to support the region. I would also want to echo my thanks to the organizing committee, both my own colleagues at ASMC and MSS, many of whom are in the room today, as well as the WMO colleagues from the RAP and from Geneva. Right, so please do join me to thank Professor Saulo as well as the organizers of these 3 days of conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. This officially brings us to the end of this year's ASMC WMO Forum. A round of applause, everyone. We would like to extend our deepest gratitude to all our speakers, panelists, moderators for their invaluable contribution to this forum. What we get of this forum is, as much effort as we put in, and I think we can all walk away feeling that, we've done pretty well here. So thank you once again, everyone. We couldn't have done this without every one of you here in the room. Before we conclude this event, we would be delighted if our colleagues here can also follow the ASMC and WMO on their respective LinkedIn pages via the QR codes on the screen. And if you post about the forum on the LinkedIn page, the hashtag to use is ASMC WMO Forum. And so we've got this on the screen, and now I think some of you actually would require to fill in a feedback form on day 3 of the forum as well. So please fill that in as well. We have a survey, this is a QR survey code for this. And last but not least, we also require the representatives from the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services who are attending the lunch. Later, if you're going to the lunch, please proceed to the back of the room. My colleagues Chen Chen and Ted, so the two of them raising their hands there, looking very good, all right? They will be the ones to guide you towards your long-awaited lunch. So you follow them and they'll take you to a good place, all right? And finally, thank you everyone for being a part of this whole event, and to our foreign guests, safe travels, and we look forward to not only working with you, but also welcoming you back to Singapore again one day. Thank you and goodbye.